What is poppin', my cuties? I just had a cup of coffee and I feel so much better and so much more awake. Happy Tuesday. It is Tuesday, April 21st, 2020. The shortcut date is 4/21/20. So on the agenda for today, you had Math Story 4.2, you had workbook pages 44, 45, ELA, you had the quick response as well as ready lesson on page 80, 81, and 84. I believe you had some science today too as well, yes? Awesome, so that's the stuff that I wrote down to take a look at for today's video. So for today's video, we're gonna go over the ELA skill, a little bit on the ELA ready lesson, and we're just gonna go over the answers for a couple of pages on the math. So just make sure you have everything so that you feel organized. But again, this video is not gonna be long because the purpose is not to make you sit here and listen to my voice. The purpose is for it to be productive for you, fun for you, and a way for you to be able to check some of your work and feel like you have a little bit more control over the content and feel like you understand it. Suraj, I did not forget, I do have a super snake for you. So if you get to the end of the video, you will see the super snake. I did try this a few times and ended up being quite difficult. One of the most difficult animals that I tried to draw. So I did end up looking on a YouTube video of how to draw a snake. So if you have any interest in being able to draw that, the YouTube videos are fantastic and it came out quite well. So I'm pretty excited about it. As always, let's start off with some shout outs of people who did everything that they had to do. I'm so proud of you. And thank you for telling me things that made you smile over the weekend. That made me so happy. Shout out to Serena, Samuel, Fernanda, Suraj, Monica, Cody, and then I did speak to Michaela this morning. She didn't comment, but she did tell me that she did the work and she confirmed that with me. So awesome job, Michaela, and everyone else who's been consistently commenting. One last thing before we dive into the content and the work is I wanted to let you know that, one, if you have not received the packet yet, the academic packet, for whatever reason, you have to let me know and I'll write that in, I'll type that into the email that I send to your families today as well, just because the second round of packets is going to be coming out soon and we want to make sure that we're sending it to the correct place with the correct zip code so that you are able to get your hands on everything that you need. Secondly, next Tuesday, April 28th, at 2:30 p.m. we're gonna get on a Google Hangout together, and that way, instead of me pre-recording stuff and you watching it after, we can actually interact with each other live, kind of like a Zoom call or a Skype call or a FaceTime, right, with as many people as possible. In order to conduct this in a way that follows NHA policies, we have to do it through Google Classroom, and that's where I'll be posting the link. So if you're watching this video and you still have not accessed Ms. Freed's third grade class on Google Classroom, please make sure that you contact Mr. Brooks and ask him for support in this area so that you don't miss out on that hangout, because that is the closest thing that we have to coming together as a family. So next Tuesday, April 28th, so you have a week from today to get into Google Classroom and get that figured out. Sound good? Let's start with ELA today, so make sure that you have that packet. The skill for this week is character motivation, which we went over in person so much. It was one of our favorite skills to learn throughout the year. If you remember, we had Braylon read the questions out in his voice so often because we love the way that he said it. So character motivation is the reason why a character says, or a character does, says, or thinks something, and it's usually connected to the problem. We ask ourselves, what is the character's problem, and what does the character want? What does the character want? Words to know this week, repeat after me. We have bat, battery, what did I say here? Oh, blue, it's backwards, fuel, plug, term, and vision. Awesome. I loved the ready text for today, Grandma's Secret. It was short, but it was cute. And you guys know that I love watching shows, competition shows like The Voice and America's Got Talent, and things that do actually have ordinary people being able to get this awesome exposure and become shining stars. So I thought that this little short piece, Grandma's Secret, was really cute. The questions that I went over, this one is from page 80, the number 2, so after that graph that you had with the details, story details, and answer. It said, what is one thing Annie and her grandmother have in common, and how do you know? And I just went back to the text, and in paragraph 1, it says that they both like watching competition shows on TV, specifically ones where ordinary people turn into big stars. So that was really my answer, and I know that because it's directly in the text. And then I went to page 84 and did that work along with you guys. So it's a short response question that said, describe the secret that Grandma had been keeping and why didn't Annie know about it? So in order to have a strong scholar response, I kind of treated this similarly to a constructed response and made sure that I had a restate and answer, citation, and explain. It's that my response says, the secret Grandma had been keeping involves her being part of a musical group or a music group that performed their song on a television show. For example, in paragraph 6, Grandma talks about the Wildflower Group and how their song became popular on the radio, which led to a TV appearance. Katie did not know about this simply because Grandma had never told her. You guys, I just read that entire paragraph backwards. Like when I hold it up and I'm facing this way, it's backwards, and I just read the whole thing backwards. So things you learn in quarantine. So honestly, if you're making a mind movie and you wrote a main idea for that story, I feel like these questions were kind of concrete, right? All you had to do is go back into the text and find the answer, and it was right there. So I hope that that story and those questions did not feel difficult for you. Math, go ahead and open to Math Story 4.2. I'm not going to go over this in depth because it's essentially the same exact question that you guys did yesterday. So if you are having difficulty with it, go back to yesterday's video and look at the array models that I made and use those to help you. But I just wrote down the answers so that you could double check your work. Part A, the equation that you should have figured out is 4 groups of 6 equals 24 heads of broccoli. Part B has 2 parts, so it asks you how many are in the second section, and then it asks you what are the total amount of heads of broccoli, so you should have 2 answers for part B. The first one is 5 groups of 6 equals 30 heads of broccoli, and the total is 30 plus 24 equals 54 total heads of broccoli. So you have 4 times 6, 24, 5 times 6, 30, and 54. Yeah? On the bottom of page 44, if you went to the workbook section, I'll give you 5 seconds to get there. You had these triangles, and then you had fact, family, multiplication, and division equations to fill out. I just rewrote the ABC triangles for you and circled the missing numbers. So for this top triangle, you had 2 and 8, the missing was 16. B, the missing was 10, and C, the missing was 4. And at the bottom here, these were all multiplication. So I didn't write down the multiplication equations for you, but you should have been able to make the connection that if 1 minute equals 60 seconds, 2 minutes equals 120 seconds, 60 times 2 equals 120, 5 minutes equals 300 seconds, 60 times 5 equals 300, right? Because we know 6 times 5 equals 30, attach a 0 for place value, and 9 minutes in seconds is 540. So here are the answers. If you didn't get those, please mark it and revise. 9 minutes. Get comfy cozy. Things are getting wild. We have only this much of Tales of Despereaux left. I did just order 5 read aloud books on Amazon. 3 of them have been recommended to me by multiple people, so I'm really looking forward to that little box of 3 books that I'm getting. And then the other 2 were on the list of top read alouds on Amazon for 8 and 9-year-olds, which is you, so I hope that we like them. But they should be coming in the next 2 weeks or so, which is perfect. All right, stick around and you will see the super snake at the end. Chapter 41, The Tears of a King. Despero found the king in the Peas room sitting on his daughter's bed, clutching the tapestry of her life to its chest. He was weeping, although weeping really is too small a word for the activity that the king had undertaken. Tears were cascading from his eyes. A small puddle had formed at his feet. I am not exaggerating. The king, it seemed, was intent on crying himself a river. Reader, have you ever seen a king cry? When the powerful are made weak, when they are revealed to be human, to have hearts, their diminishment is nothing short of terrifying. You can be sure that Despero was terrified. Absolutely. But he spoke up anyway. Sir, the mouse said to the king. But the king did not hear him. And as Despero watched, King Philip dropped the tapestry and took his great golden crown from his lap and used it to beat himself on the chest over and over again. The king, as I have already mentioned, had several faults. He was nearsighted. He made ridiculous, unreasonable, difficult to enforce laws, and much in the way of Miggery So, he was not exactly the sharpest knife in the drawer, if you know what I mean. But there was one extraordinary, wonderful, admirable thing about the king. He was a man who was able and willing to love with the whole of his heart. And just as he loved the queen with the whole of his heart, so too he loved his daughter with the whole of it, even more than the whole. He loved the Princess P with every particle of his being, and she had been taken from him. But what Despero had come to say to the king had to be said, and so he tried again. "Excuse me," he said. He wasn't certain really how a mouse should address a king. Sir did not seem like a big enough word. Despero thought about it for a long moment. He cleared his throat. He spoke as loudly as he was capable of speaking. "Excuse me, most very honored head person." King Philip stopped beating his crown against his chest, and he looked around the room. "Down here, most very honored head person," said Despero. The king, tears still falling from his eyes, looked at the floor. He squinted. "Is that a bug speaking to me?" he asked. "No," said Despero. "I'm a mouse. We met before." "A mouse?" bellowed the king. "A mouse is but one step removed from a rat." "Sir," said Despero, "most very honored head person, sir, please, you have to listen to me. This is important. I know where your daughter is." "You do?" said the king. He sniffed. He blew his nose on his royal cloak. "Where?" he said, as he bent over to look more closely at Despero. 1 tear, 2 tears, 3 enormous king-sized tears fell with an audible plop onto Despero's head and rolled down his back, washing away the white flour and revealing his own brown fur. "Sir, most very honored head person, sir," said Despero as he wiped the king's tears out of his own eyes. "She's in the dungeon." "Liar," said the king. He sat back up. "I knew it. All rodents are liars and thieves. She's not in the dungeon. My men have searched the dungeon." "But no one really knows the dungeon except the rats, sir. There are thousands of places where she could be hidden, and only the rats would know. Your men would never be able to find her if the rats did not want her to be found." "Ah!" said the king, and he clapped his hands over his ears. "Do not speak to me of rats and what they know," he shouted. "Rats are illegal. Rats are against the law. There are no rats in my kingdom. They do not exist." "Sir, most very honored head person, that is not true. Hundreds of rats live in the dungeon of this castle. One of them has taken your daughter, and you will send..." The king started humming. "I can't hear you. I can't hear you. And anyway, what you say is wrong because you are a rodent and therefore a liar." He started to hum again, and he stopped and said, "I have hired fortune tellers and a magician. They are coming from a distant land. They will tell me where my beautiful daughter is." They will speak the truth. A mouse cannot speak the truth. I am telling you the truth, said Despereaux. I promise. But the king would not listen. He sat his hands over his ears. He hummed loudly. Big fat tears rolled down his face and fell to the floor. Despereaux sat and stared at him in dismay. What should he do now? He put a nervous paw up to his neck and pulled at the red thread. And suddenly his dream came flooding back to him. The dark and the light, and the knight swinging his sword, and the terrible moment when he had realized that the suit of the armor was empty. You guys remember that dream? And then, reader, as soon as he stood before the king, a wonderful, amazing thought occurred to the mouse. What if the suit of armor had been empty for a reason? What if it had been empty because it was waiting for him? You know me. That was the knight in his dream, he said. Yes, Despereaux said out loud in wonder. I do know you. I can't hear you, sang the king. Oh, I have to do it myself, said the mouse. I will have to be the knight in shining armor. There's no other way. It has to be me. Despereaux turned. He left the weeping king. He went to find the thread master. All right, that was good. I wonder if Despereaux's gonna save the love of his life. Super Snake. What do you think? If you want to draw the same one, just look on YouTube. I think I searched how to draw a cartoon snake. I'm pretty sure that's what I did. And there's like a video that's 1 minute and 45 seconds long. All right, my cuties, I'll upload this to YouTube for you and email your parents. Remember the announcements that I said at the beginning. If you haven't gotten a packet, please reach out to me and let me know. I will also type that up in the email. And live class hangout together next Tuesday, April 28th. The link has to be sent through Google Classroom, so if you're not a part of that already, please reach out to Mr. Brooks and have him help you get set up. Bye!